going to spend 5 minutes to explain to you how to read and how to analyze the match report PDF that I actually sent for every match. This is generated by DataVolley, and it contains all the information about the game. So I'm going to go through each and every part of the document, and I'm going to explain what it is and how you can actually run some of the stats. So follow the mouse there. The top information is just the name of the game, the day, some information about the time. Nothing we can really analyze about it, but just to make sure that we are looking at the right game. Top right hand corner, we got the name of the two teams, the end result, and below that some information about the number of sets, the duration of each set, the partial score and the end score of each set. Partial score is interesting in terms of analysis because it allows, for instance, me to understand if we're ahead or behind at 8 and 6, how we are progressing through in each and every set, if there is a pattern that we're always late at 8 but we still win, or vice versa. The other thing that is interesting is like a basketball game, you can consider that to be the first quarter and the second quarter and the third quarter and see how many points difference you got per quarter. So for instance here, Unity was ahead by 4 points, they still maintain the 4 points, and then suddenly they pull out by 6, but at the end they only by 3. So for somebody who wants to analyze what is happening between 21 and 25, and you can review the video and understand what's going on. So that's one part that we can analyze. Below that you have two parts, one for each team. So this one is for Q2, and you got the same one for Unity, so you can check for your team and you can check your opponent, which is you're going to analyze your power and your strength and your weaknesses on your team, and at the same time you can do the same thing for the other team and vice versa. So let me go through that part for that team called Q2. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So the first one is the list of the player with their names, and then you got who started the set in what position. So Sarah started in 1, Christina started in 5, and Carla, who is the setter because it's a white square, started in 3. So you can understand, for instance, if you had different startup or if you do had different people compared to the result of each set, you can see what happened in each set. You can see what you played against that team in each set. You can understand what order you actually start each people, right? The circle here means that the serve would for that team, right? So in the first set, Q2 was serving the first ball, and in the third set, so the second column is called vote, which is a computation that DataVolley does based on all the different results of the plus and minuses and all the stat that it's got to give a ranking between 0 and 10 of the player. I don't really take that and I don't really analyze that, but it gives me some understanding from match to match to see if the person is consistent in terms of quote-unquote DataVolley ranking. From there, this is important. After that, we got one column for the points, serve, reception, attack, and block. So points, we got a total of point of that person, right? So Lauren actually brought 13 points. She brought 6 points in BP, which are breakpoint point. So if you look at the bottom here, you'll see that BP at the breakpoint, which are the point when you're serving, versus the side out point when are the point that you're receptioning, right? So that means that out of the 13, 6 were from breakpoint, so 7 were from set out, right? For Christina, 4 point, 2 was for breakpoint when we're serving, 2 from side out. The win-loss is a plus minus, so that's very important, is it's telling you how many points that person brought back to the team. So it's a difference between the total point that person brought, right? So you can see that 2 serve, aces, 10 attack, so that's and I think 1 block, so that's 13 points. But at the same time, she was blocked once, she had 1 attack error, she didn't make any passing error, but she made a serve error. So that's why she's bringing 10 points, because she cost 1, 2, 3 points, right? But she still brought 10 points to the game. I look at that, not so much the BP and the SO, to see if the person is actually better in breakpoint, like meaning in defense or in passing, but I like to understand if it's a plus minus, because that's definitely important to see if somebody is costing me point why they're costing me point. Like here, it's a serve and it's in a passing. So then I can work with that person that says, okay, this is the skill that you need to work on right now because this is costing us some time, and we need to understand: are you passing on the right? Are you passing on the left? Are you serve too long? Are you serving the net? Serving. So again, we can see the total number of serve, the number of errors. So we don't know if it's too long in the net or on the side, and a number of ACs. Passing, number of pass, the number of shank, and then the number of perfect pass. So for now, I'm not differentiating between a 3 and a 2, and that's why the numbers are the same, but I will do that later. So this is the number of perfect versus the number of 1 overpass or error. Right? So for instance, I'll pick on Sarah again. Out of 10, right, she had 2 error and 50% perfect pass. So she passed perfect 3 or 2, right, 2 or 3, 50% of the time. Attack, same thing, number of attack, number of errors, number of attack blocked, right? Number of points, which is number of kill, and the percentage of the point. I'm not sure how it's calculated, but that's the percentage probably of the point versus the total. And then the number of blocks that person did. So again, very interesting in terms of individual skills to understand what we need to work on for that person. So let's say I want to work with Rebecca on the attack. I realize she's got 1 error, 10 point, 18. I need to understand what happened with the 8 or 7 attack that was not a kill, right? So that could be something that I can work on. Okay, so let's go, and that's the same thing for the other team, right? So you can see, right, for the other team, let's say we're playing Unity next week. I want to understand who's attacking, right? They're serving number 7, number 8, number 11, number 12, so it's kind of distributed, and I know who's the most attacker, I know who's going to pass, I know their percentage, so that's going to help me. Okay, we're going to serve that person or not that person, and so on and so on, right? Now let's go back to that team here. So we understand the people, the rotation, all the points. Then something very interesting is to understand, where do our points come from, right? So you'll see each and every set here, and for each and every set, like for the first set, that team Q2 had 22 points, 3 were from aces, 14 from attack, 1 for block, 4 from the opponent. So the opponent only gave us 4 points, and that's why you got 17, 18, and 4, 22 points. Very interesting to understand if we are losing the game or if they are losing the game, right? Depending on the number of opponents' error that they're raising. So that's very important for me to understand what's happening in each and every set and how we actually behave. So the other part here is you can see the status and the total for each set in the numbers of serve that were done. So instead of having that per athlete, you can have per set, right? So you can see, for instance, that the passing actually went better. The first set was not as good, but the passing went better, and the kill, the attack, were absolutely tremendously better, from 37 to 58%. Right? So again, that's one thing that you can understand from your team, to understand how and what you need to work on, if it's your passing, if it's your attack, if it's your serve, and then you can stat the other team and say, okay, this is what is happening in terms of user, this is what is happening in terms of sets. The last part is the one that I found the most interesting in terms of studying and understanding where I need my team to work, what kind of drills I'm going to create, but it's also kind of the most complex. So that part here is separated in 2 massive columns. There is one for Q2, so everything here is about Q2, and there is a one here for Unity. And then there are some columns and there are some lines. So let's go for each and every details. If I go into Q2 and I start from the left side, I can see my point based on where the setter is, and I can see my plus and minuses. This tells me when the setter of Q2 is in 5 out of the entire game, I actually gain 1 point in that rotation, right? So I gain 1 point when I actually score, do a kill, and I lose points when I do a serve error or a shank error or anything. So that tells me that the best rotation for Q2, the rotation that Q2 wants to stay in, are rotation 2 and 3. And the rotation where they have trouble staying in and that it's costing them a lot of points is S1. So if I was a Q2 coach, I would probably work my next practice in S1, and I would do a lot of rotation in X1, and we'll go further. We'll understand if it's a passing issue or if it's like we can't score and we can't get out of it. But that's one of the things that it's telling me. And that's the same thing for Unity. It's actually here, and it's telling me the same thing. Unity has apparently some issues in S1 where they're losing 13 points total in S1. The other part here is this column here are telling me information about my side outs, which is when I'm actually passing, right? When am I, and what is my stat in terms of how do I get out of a passing rotation? So I did reception 69 times and I scored 33 times, right? So I got out of that rotation 33 times. So that means that every time I do 2 reception, I score 1 point. Right? I get out of that rotation. Same thing for BP, which are break point, which is I was serving 101 times. 28 of those times, I actually score a second point, right? So every time I serve 3.6 times, so a lot of time, every time I serve 3.6 times, I score 1 more point, right? And that's the same thing for Unity. So that tells me if I have problem setting out or if I have problem continuing point, right? And what we want is a 1-1. Perfectly what you want to do is that when you do a reception, you side out all the time. But here, it seems like you side out 50% of the time. So we may want to increase that if it's important, figure out how to work the side out. Same thing for the serve. Out of 101 time, we actually continue and score only 33% of the time. So if it's something that is important for you, you probably need to understand how to work on defense, or maybe it's a problem of serving. But that's one of the things that is interesting in that stuff. And that's the same thing for Unity. It's around here, and it tells them the information. The part in the middle is the number of kill, either on first ball contact, that's what it's called, on reception, right? So on perfect reception and bad reception, or in transition, which is what they call dig. So the way you read that is in the first attack after positive reception, so when it's a perfect 2 or 3, Q2 attacked 54 times, scored 37% of the time, was blocked 5 times, and had 4 errors attacking. Versus Unity, it's 53 times, 38% kill, 3 blocked, 9 errors attacking. So in terms of drill, that tells me, am I going to work my in-system attack passing because my percentage is too low? Or am I going to work my out-of-system attack passing because my percentage is too low? Same thing for the transition, which is this called attack on dig. And so it's telling me that in that case for Q2, they attacked in transition 65 times and they score 40% of the time. If it's okay, you don't work on it. If it's too low, you can work on it, right? There is no real separation between in-system, out-of-system when it's in transition versus here, which is a 1 pass versus a 3 pass. So those information here should help you set up the next practice for your team.